Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to visit for a few minutes about a very important issue that will be appearing on a ballot on August the 12th of this year. On August the 12th, there will be a special election for the citizens of Jonesboro to vote on an issue that will allow the city of Jonesboro to collect all of the sales tax and put it in the general fund rather than putting half in the general fund and one half in capital improvement. The reason for this is that the public safety sales tax, which we call the temporary sales tax, will expire this December. So what that means to the citizens of Jonesboro is the 0.5% sales tax that you're paying now on the public safety sales tax will expire and go away in 2015. The reason for us allowing the money to go into general revenue is over the past 4 years, the city of Jonesboro has done a tremendous job in working with capital improvement projects. We have built fire stations, our new city hall, our new public works on Dan and Lacey Avenue, our YMCA swimming pool, and many other projects we have done. We feel that there'll be very little need for major capital improvements in the years to come. Now, take in mind that we will still be doing capital improvement projects, but they will be identified in a specific project in the budget each year. Now, to explain in detail a lot of the things that we've covered within our focus group meetings is Ben Borelski, our Chief Financial Officer, who has been putting these figures together for the last several months to make sure that we can go through 2015, 16, and beyond without the public safety sales tax. And Ben, if you would, just take a few minutes and show the people what we're talking about.
Thank you, Mayor. And as the Mayor has stated, this election on August the 12th is very important to how we operate the city going forward. It's a change in philosophy from how we operate and how we fund capital improvement projects. So as we go into this discussion, don't lose sight of the election on August the 12th and our need for you to be there. We'll begin our discussion on the taxes that you pay in the city of Jonesboro and where they go. Currently, in the city of Jonesboro, Arkansas, you pay 6.5% to the state, 1% to the county, and 1.5% to the city. Of that 1.5% that you pay to the city, 1% is a permanent tax passed in 2000, and the other one is a half-cent temporary tax that was passed in 2010. If you compare our tax rates in the city of Jonesboro to other cities in the state similar to us in size or larger, you will see by this chart here that we are among the lowest. Of the 1.5% sales tax that we pay in the city of Jonesboro, 1% is permanent and 0.5% is temporary. The 1% permanent tax brings in an estimated $15 million a year. 50% of that is restricted for capital improvements and 50% is unrestricted for general fund operations. The temporary tax, otherwise known as the public safety sales tax passed in 2010, was used for general fund operations of the police and fire departments. It roughly brings in $7.5 million and is set to expire December 31st, 2014. Let's use the next two slides to briefly discuss the temporary tax. As you can see, in the last 4 years, without that temporary tax, the city would have been in deficit spending for 3 of those 4 years. In that time frame, the city has made significant improvements to how we operate the city under Harold Perrin. We've restructured our police pension plan at a savings of about $450,000 annually. We have restructured our non-uniform plan, which saves us between $350,000 to $400,000 a year. But along with that, there's also an increase in expenditures as we grow. We've taken on the Soccer Association. We've taken on the Softball Association. We've had to hire a number of staff to operate those departments, and we've also had major capital improvements associated with those two parks departments, as well as a number of hirings in the last 4 years with our police department, our street department, parks department, and for the first time in a very long time, we hired 2 firemen as well this last year. We've also had a number of officers that were being funded by grants that have now come over to our general fund as well, to the tune of about $400,000 a year. So as the city grows, our expenses are obviously going to grow. So in the last 4 years, this temporary tax that now produces roughly $7.5 million a year and goes into our general fund Through our projections, we currently only need about $3 million to balance the books. So as we analyze these numbers, we realize that it's quite possible for us to go forward without this temporary tax that expires in December of 2014. If we continue to look at the temporary tax and what it's done the last 4 years, you can see by this chart here that roughly 38% of our police and fire expenditures are funded by that temporary tax. We currently spend a little over $18 million a year to fund our police and fire departments. We will spend the rest of this presentation to discuss the permanent 1-cent sales tax. Currently, half of this tax goes to the general fund operations for all departments. The other half of this permanent tax is restricted to capital improvements of a public nature. This is where we've built our fire stations over the last 12 years, our animal control facility, this municipal center, our police station renovation currently going on Caraway Road, our bridges, our drainage projects over the years, our road overlays, many park improvements, and our contributions to economic development. This estimated $7.5 million that is deposited in the Capital Improvement Fund funds all these projects. Now, this administration believes that we've met all our building needs for the immediate future. Let's look at general fund revenues and expenditures. Currently, in our general fund, 72% of the revenues that come in are provided by our temporary tax, our permanent tax, and our county tax. So 72 cents on every dollar that the city receives comes from those sales taxes. Roughly 62% of our general fund expenditures is accounted for in our police and fire departments. You can see 6% goes to parks, the other 16% general operations of the city, and 12% for sanitation. Now you can see by looking at these charts that if we remove that tax in December 31st of 2014, that we'll have a shortfall of 20% of our revenues in our general fund. Now let's discuss the other half, the half that is restricted for capital improvements. In the last 3 years, the City of Jonesboro has spent an estimated 41% on facilities. It is our belief that we have met our building needs for the immediate future. As a result, our Capital Improvement Fund will no longer need that 41% or $3 million for those building expenditures. Let's look at the history of that 1-cent permanent sales tax. Since 1999, you can see in the white columns the capital expenditures, for the most part, far exceed our sales tax revenues going in that fund, showing that we didn't build up a large amount of reserves in our capital improvement funds, that we actually did spend the money on capital improvement needs for the city. If we look at our population growth in the same time as that sales tax, you can see that we've had an increase in an estimated 15,000 people, just a 28% increase in population. Compare that to the sales tax that comes in, and you'll see that we had a nearly a $6 million increase in sales tax revenues, or 64.5%. If you go back and look at from 1999 to 2001, that dip we have in sales tax collections, that is a result of not having sales tax collections for a 3-month period while we had that special election. If you go over and look at 2008, when the recession hit, it took 3 years to get the sales tax revenues back up to where they were before the recession. So if we combine the two charts, you obviously see that. You see the correlation between the population and sales tax history. On August the 12th, we would like to allow the temporary public safety tax to expire, remove the restrictions on the half-cent that goes into capital improvement tax. Under our current projections, we would have $4.5 million to be used for capital improvements, as we no longer have that 41% of our building needs, and the remaining $3 million to go to balance the general fund operations of the city. So when we remove that temporary tax, that $7.5 million, that 20% of our revenues that will no longer be there, we would like to replace part of that with that $3 million that is restricted for capital improvement funds. We believe this will meet the needs of the city. This is what the sales tax ballot language is going to look like on August the 12th. We are asking you to vote for removing the restriction requiring 0.5% of the local sales and use tax for the city of Jonesboro, Arkansas, to be used for financing capital improvements of a public nature, and directing all proceeds derived from the sales and use tax to be used for general operation purposes, which may include capital improvements of a public nature. This is a very important issue coming up on August the 12th. Please vote your convictions, and thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Channel 24 and allowing us a few minutes to explain the election that will be occurring on August the 12th. And Ben, what's that about?
Well, August 12th is about the special election the City of Jonesboro is going to be having to remove the restrictions from our permanent 1-cent sales tax. You can actually start early voting at the Election Annex building on West Jefferson on the 5th.
And thank you again for watching Channel 24. And we certainly want you to vote your convictions on August the 12th concerning our election. Thank you very much, and God bless.